Hello, everybody. Good evening to you. Welcome to our little masterclass promo introduction class for our 2020 program of professional communications. Thanks for everyone for coming on a Thursday night. I'm sure many people could be out having a beer or having a spicino or I don't know what else you could be eating on a Thursday night. So we appreciate the fact that you could join us this evening. Uh, it's it's January, so everybody's kind of planning their new year of English learning and taking up new programs and this type of getting back involved with their English after the Christmas period. So what we want to do is, of course, we want to introduce you to our new program, but also I'm going to talk about a few things that maybe influence or has been influencing your training over the last lifetime. It's for some people it feels like a lifetime that they've been learning. Everybody here is an adult learner, so well, actually, let's reverse back a little bit before I get into that. I'll just a little bit about myself, a very quick description about myself. My name is Brian, and I'm from Ireland. Um, I've been I'm a CELTA teacher, which means I'm qualified by Cambridge University to teach, and I've been living and teaching in Brazil for the last 12 years now. 12 years in March, and before that, I was teaching in Asia and also in Oceania. So I've got a few years' experience in this market, and since I've moved to Brazil, I've been specializing in adult communication, business English, English for specific reasons, and examination English, which includes Cambridge, TOEFL, IELTS, and this type of medical exams, aviation exams, and that market. So really my specialty is in adult learning. So I understand the pain that many people have gone through for many years, because I get the end product of all of that, those years of repetition and frustration. So that's my intro, and basically that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit at the start of this masterclass. We're going to be looking at why have been Brazil and the Brazilian market not so successful in producing high levels of fluency, because it's quite remarkable. It's the English training market. It's a multi-million real, you could even say dollar industry here in Brazil. There's thousands upon thousands of units, hundreds of schools, uh, hundreds of thousands of teachers, probably millions of students at this point. Yet the statistics are saying that we have one of the lowest fluency rates in the world. And so I want to ask why. That's kind of what I'm going to open and make you think a little bit before you start your new year of training. Whether it's with us or whether it's with any teacher, or you have a teacher, or whether you're with a school, I'm going to ask you to kind of question the way that you've been training over the years. You can say learning, training, absorbing, acquiring English, whatever word you want to use. I want you to kind of think about what's been going right and what's been not so right, okay? So I'm going to share my screen here, okay? Let's get into um, what I got here. Okay, so what do we have here? So, okay, this is the presentation I'm going to bring you through. So first of all, we're going to talk about the masterclass, which is basically why is Brazil not as, why are Brazilians in the Brazilian system not as successful as it should be? And then I'm going to show you our solution, the eFluency solution, what we've come up with to try to cover some of these aspects, and even if you don't join us, as I said, maybe you can apply in your own training, right? And change your attitude and change the way that you approach English and you approach your English training going forward. Okay, so let's take a look. First of all, I want to take a look at the fluency myth. Okay. I think fluency and fluent is probably one of the most used words in the English marketing world at the moment. You see it everywhere. If you turn on YouTube now, you probably see 1,000 videos with the word fluent. Fluent in 6 months, fluent in 2 months, fluent in 3 years, whatever. Fluent in 1 day, some of them are probably saying. You also see it in every school, every type of language learning for English now. It's all about fluency. It's some kind of magic word that we think that we need to achieve. The fact is, in linguistics, fluency is not a destination. And so we have to stop thinking of fluency like a finished product. It is not. Fluency is a journey. It's actually the process of learning the language itself. I want you to think about Portuguese, your own language at this moment in time. You have been learning Portuguese right from probably 2 years of age, right up to this point in your life. And you will continue to learn it. Subconsciously or consciously, you are learning your own language still to this day. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you meet different people, you exchange ideas, different concepts. You're constantly reading new material. You're listening to new material. You read new books that give you new ideas about philosophy or geopolitics or cooking or whatever. So you're constantly learning your own language, and you will constantly learn your own language until you're old and gray. So why do we think that we're going to learn English and be fluent in English in 3 months? If you think about that, it is ridiculous. It is just one of the biggest lies out there. And I've no problem calling it a lie, because it's an insult to students, and it's an insult to people in the profession. So, which is great, because if you think that fluency is not a destination and it's not something that I need to achieve quickly, it makes the process, or I won't say process, the journey more enjoyable, because there's no rush. There's no pressure that you need to be proficient and fluent in English by tomorrow. The fact of the matter is, most of you here have been starting and stopping English for many years. Again, you're all adults. So you've started at some point in your school years. You've stopped because maybe it was just time to stop. Then some necessity in your life made you start again. Maybe your job, maybe travel, or whatever, loved one or whatever. And then you stopped again because maybe you got frustrated, or time ran out, or money problems, or whatever. And then you'll start again, and so on. And this will continue throughout your training life. So what? You can't continually learn a language forever. It's just impossible, right? As in, like, going to a school or going to a teacher. You have to take breaks. But then the secret is you continue exposing yourself to the language through a self-learning program, or, again, today we have so much technology that we really have no excuse. Netflix, everybody knows it, everybody uses it, it's a great tool. Music is another one, and so on and so forth. But the thing is, you are getting more, you're developing your fluency all the time. Language does not regress. It falls asleep, and you need to stimulate it, but you do not lose your language. You feel like you do, but you don't. It just goes back to the back of the cognitive, and then it can be stimulated again. So we don't lose it. So we're always building on it. So this idea that we have to be fluent in 6 months, besides it's wrong and it's a lie and it's impossible, unless you're some kind of genius polyglot, which most people are not. It's just not something achievable, and it's not very important. Now, many people are probably listening to me and saying, well, Brian, I need to be fluent for my job. I need good fluency because my job is, forcing me to have this. And let's be honest, probably 90% of people are learning English because of their work. Now, I just want to ask a question. And everybody, you can type into the comment section, why are you learning English? So if you just put down a quick reason, like two words, for work or for love or because I like the language. The simple fact is, and people will be honest, it's for their job. And that's a great reason, but of course it's not, they don't enjoy the experience. So as a teacher, we have to make it enjoyable. That's kind of our job, right? So we try to make it as painless as possible. So that's the fluency myth, okay? So let's look back again at the training aspects in Brazil and see, why are we not achieving the results that we should be? So 2 major questions here I'm asking. What are the major issues with English training in Brazil? And why do people not progress as they should? Now, stay with me for a second, because I'm going to give you some statistics. Now, I'm not going to kill you with stats, but these are very important because they're going to make you think about yourself. There's not many, there was not many, and there have not been many studies done in Brazil about the general education of English. But there was one very important one done in 2014 by the British Council, and it was very complete. Since then, there has been no real efficient one, except for the Education First that was done last year, and it was not as complete. Only 5% of Brazilians in 2014 state that they speak English or they had knowledge of English. Now, that is not fluency, it is not advanced, it's just speak or have some knowledge of it. So people 16 years or older state they have some knowledge of English language, 5.1%. And people 16 years or older, 9% in that year, 2014, state they intended to start an English course in the next year. That's 9% of 200 million. It's 5% of 200 million people. Now, yes, Brazil has socio-economic reasons why this is still a problem, and I'm not going to go into that. But still, if you imagine all the schools, if you imagine all the investment, if you imagine all the money that has been spent, that is quite a few people that still have a proficiency or even intend to go into this training. Okay, here we see by the population of the groups. Okay, so I think most people here are probably between 25 and 34 in this group here. So only 5.2% of people in that group in 2004 had some kind of proficiency or some kind of knowledge in English. It's too little. Colombia and Chile have more. So that can, even Peru has more. And their education systems are far worse. So, well, I don't know about Chile, but Colombia and Peru, yes. So, okay, think of that 5%. That 5% that were speaking English, 47% were basic. 32% were intermediate, 16 advanced, I won't say the word fluent, and 5% didn't know. So we assume that they're between basic and intermediate, because if they don't know, they're probably a lower grade. It's pretty astonishing if you think about, again, the schooling systems, the private schooling systems here. Okay, so English classes in school between 6 and 18 is studying or has studied. 95% have studied English in school. So that's a reverse. So we have 5% with some knowledge of English, yet 95 have studied English. And then 10% intend to study, and then again, 90% still studied. So we are on a really bad balance here of results versus investment. This, I think everybody can relate to. The main reasons for dropping out of an English course in 2014. Pick yourself in one of these. That's what I ask our participants tonight. Among those that dropped out, the top was couldn't attend or many absences. When you say that you couldn't attend or you had many absences, probably that means you're not prioritizing English. Your gym is more important, right? Maybe you're working too much, or maybe you're just working past the hour of time in your job. But basically, English is way down your priority list, if that is your main reason, which is contradictive. English gets me a promotion and gets me better, in my profession, yet I'm missing all of my classes. So there's a lack of dedication, probably because of motivation, right? Too expensive. Okay, so the investment, right? Okay, or lack of money. Again, we have social economic reasons for that. Couldn't learn or saw no results. So this is something we're going to talk about. They couldn't learn, or they saw no results. So learning a language is an old style of language acquisition. So we're looking at textbooks, lots of grammar, lots of static material, learning. And language should not be learned. It needs to be acquired, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. And then saw no results because of frustration. Obviously, they feel like they're not progressing and they stop. Distance from the work. Big cities, Sao Paulo, Rio, Belo Horizonte. You all know the difficulty of getting to a school after or before work. It's very difficult. Luckily, now we have technology to solve that. Okay. course was too long or the poor teaching methods. Okay, so teachers' qualifications or the course was too long. Course was too short, right? I don't hear that often, but the course was too short, okay. And again, the main reasons for not taking a course is the same. No time, look, expensive, no money, distance from the schools. At the moment, I see no I need to learn. That's changing completely, right? So again, we've seen most people have learned English some stage in their lifetime, yet the results are very small. Many people need English. I think there's a statistic here. Oh yeah, watch this. And I'll finish on this little statistic here. 91% of executives or business people found English to be essential or stated main business was very important in their business. Yet, again, we only have 5% of people with a knowledge of English. So people realize importance, but we're not putting in the importance. So it's something that we need to kind of think about. So if people are studying 12 years, 10 years, 8 years, on and off, not consistently, but on and off, taking up different courses, different formats, there's no way you can be fluent in 6 months. So let's forget about that idea. And just accept the fact that you will be taking up and putting down English as a learning tool all of your life. But now it's getting easier because of technology and because of internet learning and things like this. So just again, 5% of Brazilians have knowledge, this is coming from 2014, of some knowledge of English. Of this 5%, 47 are basic. 32 were intermediate, 16 were advanced, and the rest didn't know. In 2014, 9% of Brazilians said they wanted to start an English course. In the same study, 80% of those who started actually gave up. So let's look at some of the reasons. These are some of my reasons why I think many people don't advance or stop, basically, right? So mixed or fixed methodologies. First of all, I don't believe in methodologies. I don't think they work. My experience is that they don't work because not everybody is the same. Some people have different learning capabilities than others. We're not all polyglots, but they do exist out there, and there's some geniuses, but most of us are not. And so some of us find methodologies boring. They trap us in a certain field. They're not tested, a lot of them, okay? And they do supply a poor level of teaching because it helps lower grade teachers just teach a very fixed and rigid format. So the teaching capability is, there's no invention or creation. Years of grammar focus. I think everybody here has sat in front of textbooks for years, but the problem is they do the same grammar over and over again. They do it in primary school, and then they go into the private schools, and then they do it again. And so maybe they get past the verb do after 6 years, and there's no vocabulary development, and it's just static texts of reading, static, fake listening. You have to pick out a word. Really boring and really, well, it's just boring, you know. So again, static, and it's not dynamic enough. Objectives. Okay, so the clarity of objectives, we've seen this in the statistics. People didn't know how long the course would be. They didn't know when it would finish, and they didn't know or see any results. The fact is, language should be taught in what I think it is anyway, my fact, in a short-term objectives, 3, 4, 5 months maximum. But even within that, what are your objectives for next month? Okay, so I've got a presentation in a month's time. I need to get good for that. Okay, so that's an objective. I'm going to do an interview for a company in 2 months' time. That's another objective. So all of these objectives, we've got to keep pushing monthly, weekly, you know, even daily. So reduce your objectives and keep pushing them. Then you're going to see results faster, and then you're going to get motivated to keep on going. Irrelevant material. Of course, lots of irrelevant material out there. Of course, Johnny walked his dog in the park. What has that got to do with my job? You know, going to the supermarket to buy vegetables. Okay, I think I can figure out what a vegetable is. How is this going to help me in my profession? Irrelevant material. Okay. Not enough real exposure to real language. So communication, real text work, real listening, movies, real material that natives will use, and not enough exposure, and then not enough interaction with that. Insufficient monitored communication, and then the feedback factor. As teachers, we have very little time to give feedback. That has to change. So feedback should be given to the student every week. Where to get better, week by week, class by class, so they know where they're going, where they need to work on. So if you've got a weakness in a grammar, you work on this. This vocabulary was great, but this one you've got to work on. Your pronunciation is good here, but not so good here. So, because otherwise people just appear every week in the classroom. Hi, the teacher, how is it going? Let's talk about football. And then the class is done and I don't see you for another week. That is not sufficient. Okay. And then the classical learning approach. So learning a language is not the best way. Learning is textbooks, copy and paste, translation. This old type of learning. We have to acquire the language through more dynamism, communication, real material, and so on and so forth. Okay, what's our solution? That's the masterclass, by the way. That's basically it. Now, our solution to this, looking at the data, the statistics, and using our experience as a team, as professional teachers. All of our teachers need fluency or qualified teachers. We are looking at how we can improve this going forward. Okay, so let's look at some of the elements of this. The key elements here, again, we're trying to make it as convenient for people, but solving some of the major problems that are in the learning environment. So online learning, it's the future because people just can't get from A to B easy and fast enough. Presential learning is becoming more and more difficult, especially in business center cities. So online learning gives you the convenience. You can do it in your office, during your lunch break, or in the mornings. I won't say you can do it in your car because you probably crash. The objective learning. So we are going to be working off weekly objectives. And what do I mean by weekly objectives? In the class, and you're going to see in a second, we are going to have specific modules of communication. It's not just going to be English, it's going to be communication. Like in we're going to be training for presentations, taking part in meetings. So we're going to be working of week-to-week objectives to get better in those type of scenarios. So we don't have to wait 6 months or 3 months. We're going to be doing it week to week. Now, as I said before, it's not a magic pill I'm selling. The participants need to work. You're not going to just turn up and go, I'm going to hand you like, okay, that's it. You're a genius now. No, you will be given the tools, and then the participant will need to apply those tools. And then they will get feedback on whether they're using it effectively or not. So that's the objective learning, short-term and consistent. Creative approach. So we're going to be doing a lot of creative approach type of learning. So again, I'll be giving you the tools and the materials, and you're going to be creating, because by creating, you're going to use all the skills: reading, writing, listening, and then communication. And there'll be a lot of communication in the class itself. Weekly feedbacks and coaching. So we're going to have a 24-hour service of feedback. That sounds a bit stupid, I know. It's not like in the middle of the night and you're going to be sending me messages and you. But the fact is, I'll be available to give you tips and advice about your creative approach and your creative materials. But also, you are going to receive a feedback after each class, basically telling you your participation, your weak points, your strong points, what I want you to work on. If I see some things that you need to get better in, I will give you extra exercises or extra tasks to help you to get better weekly. Again, it's not at the end of the semester, it's not at the end of the month where you do a test and you find out the last 6 months was a waste of time. So you are getting results weekly and so on. And if you don't get results, well, then I'll be on top of you and putting pressure on you to get those results, because it will be up to you. Okay. Communicative. It is called a communications course. So in the class, it will be purely communicative. And it will be organized communication. It's not conversation. It's not just loose, everyday conversation. It is going to be very specific that people will use in their professional life. So automatically you can start recycling the information and use it. Covering all skills. So as I said, you'll be doing all the skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And one of the best things, from my perspective, it's only 3 months. And why is that really good? Because you're going to see results in a fast period of time. Now, I'm not saying fluent and I'm not saying fluency. I'm saying results. I'm not promising anything in 3 months' time, but you will be better than when you started. And if you use the tools and you use the direction that we're going to give you, you can, and I don't like to say the word guarantee, but I can almost guarantee you will see very good results. Why? Because it's just a matter of fact. It'll just logical. You'll be so much input and so much output that obviously you're just going to be retaining a lot of information. So you're going to be using that, and then you can apply it in your work day the next week when you go back into work, or the next day, and you'll be recycling all this material as you learn. The reason why we picked 3 months is because it is impactful, it is compact, and people can see the end. And they won't get demotivated in the middle, because motivation is one of the factors. And also, we can keep the prices moderate, so it's not a long-term commitment. Think about if you were doing a master's or if you were doing a PhD, you could do 12 months or 2 years. Well, think about this in an English format. You would really work hard on that PhD or that master's for 1 year, and then you take a break. So we're kind of using that same concept. Really work hard for 3 months, and then you probably can take a break from English for a couple of months, and you will still have that effect. You'll still have the knowledge because you'll be using it then in your work, in your profession. Okay, so that's some of the key elements there. The structure is pretty easy to understand. It's 4 participants per class. No more and no less. It's designed for 4. Any less than 4, the communication won't be good, and any more than 4, it loses quality. So we're only keeping it to 4 participants per class, and myself as the facilitator. Okay, 1.5 hours or 1 hour and a half per class. So we're going to be aiming for 1 hour and 20 minutes with 10 minutes then to kind of tidy things up and the last minute questions. Okay. Every 2 weeks, we're going to do 1 module. So we have 6 modules, and every 2 weeks, we're going to do 1 module. So a module every 2 weeks, okay? And then 12 weeks in total, 12 weeks and 3 months in total, right? So it's quite condensed. So very quickly, module 1, I'll just give you the titles, is going to be called Effective Listening Skills. I'm not going to go into the details here. That's a surprise, right? But basically, it's going to make you a better listener. We all need that, right? In all of our life skills, okay? So the second one is presentations and presenting data, specifically, okay? Module 3 and 4 are interviews, selling yourself, selling your pitch, okay? Getting ready for interviews. Module 4 is meetings and networking. So we're going to be using meetings and networking as a platform, using proper vocabulary and proper communication methods for this. 5 and 6, multimedia communication. So we're talking about webinars, telecommunication, Zoom communication, these type of things, okay? Forums. And then the final project, which is the big surprise, I'm not going to talk about that, is well, no, I'm not going to talk about that. But it's a final project, and it's going to be really cool, right? It's going to be really good and really effective for the people involved. In effective listening, what are you going to do? You're going to improve your ability to extract key information in many different types of situations, right? You're going to be able to follow complex conversations and presentations. These are the objectives. Be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, because most people have listening difficulties. So mastering this is one of our key objectives. Become a more confident and fluent communicator. Critical thinking, which is essential in any language. You will augment your comprehension skills in reading and real-life communication scenarios. How? Because you're going to be looking at articles and you're going to be studying scenarios. So you're going to be thinking in English. You're going to be thinking of the way that we think in English, comparing it with your own language, and so that you can start thinking like similar to a native, right? That's the idea, okay? Expose yourself to real modern resources. So I'm going to be using real modern relative resources. Increase your confidence with the critical thinking skills in English. If you can start critically thinking in English, you're already halfway there to really becoming this, really confident communicator. So critical thinking is an essential part of any language skill. Okay? The creation element. Discover the creative process of making your own presentations. So we're going to be doing lots of presentations and then delivering them to your colleagues and to your peers and to your trainer. So we're going to be in a pressurized environment to get over fear, to become more confident, to take criticism, and to be able to give criticism at the same time. So this is an essential part of communication. You do it in Portuguese and you do it without thinking. So let's do it in English as well. Okay, receive constant and continuous weekly feedback that you can use to better yourself step by step. So I will be giving you and following you with constant feedback. You'll be getting feedback reports every week on where you can improve your English week by week, okay? Achieve clear short-term improvement through weekly objective training. So as I said, weekly objectives, okay? So everything is very dynamic in this case. And of course the vocabulary, because a big part of fluency is improving fluency is your vocabulary. Receive weekly. We're going to be looking at keywords in key communication situations and expressions. Recycling new vocabulary through the creative process in the presentations. Learning new techniques of learning and using vocabulary. So I'm going to teach you some techniques about learning the vocabulary and not memorizing, but recycling more. And increase your curiosity about English. And thus, and so, your ability through intensive exposure to the language, right? So you're increasing your curiosity because, I have students, the more they actually expose themselves to English, the more they become curious. And it's a great thing to see. They just start eating the language because they start to enjoy it. One last thing on fluency, guys. It doesn't matter, again, how you're learning the language. Fluency needs 3 real key factors. It needs consistency, it needs motivation, and it needs dedication. And if you take away one of those, dedication can be commitment, you're not going to develop your English. You're not going to develop that fluency. So it's always circling around each other. So if you're missing one of these, question why and look for that motivation, whether it's your job, whether it's work, whether it's travel or whatever, and try to fix that, okay? Okay, so what now? The last part, and that's it. That's it. Your move, which is contact eFluency tomorrow to book your place if you want, of course, no pressure. And if not, whether it is with a course, with us, with someone else, self-study, you must keep connected to your English. Don't give up. Don't get disheartened. You might be thinking that you're not improving. You are improving. Every movie you watch, every series you watch, use subtitles, read some articles, read posts on Instagram, follow, booking in English, change your computer to English or your telephone to English. There's so many tools that you can use to keep connected, but don't stop. Thanks. Thank you, everybody.